The man's voice cuts through the polished silence like a blade through silk. $2 million. Right now. If you can read this document. He doesn't whisper it, doesn't soften it for the child standing 3 feet away, hands folded, grandmother's coat brushing her shoulder. The room inhales. Someone near the sponsor's table lets out a nervous laugh that dies before it finishes. A woman in pearls shifts her weight. Phones rise halfway, then pause. No one knows yet if this is performance or cruelty. The girl doesn't flinch. She's used to rooms that decide things before she opens her mouth. Rooms where power wears tailored wool and doubt sits quietly against the walls. She doesn't ask why the number is so impossibly large. Doesn't ask what happens when she fails. She asks one question. If I read it, you keep your word? The billionaire smiles, amused, certain. Of course. That's all she needs. If you've ever been underestimated because of how you looked, how young you were, or where you came from, stay with this. Because what happens next proves something the powerful forget. Promises spoken out loud can't be erased. And if that matters to you, if you believe words should mean something, subscribe now. You'll want to see how this ends. The document sits on the mahogany desk like a challenge meant for someone older, someone credentialed, someone who belongs, thick enough to intimidate, impressive in the way objects are designed to make you feel small. She steps forward, lifts it with both hands. It's heavier than she expected, not because of the paper, but because every pair of eyes in the room suddenly presses in from all sides. Watching, waiting for the stumble, the hesitation, the proof that children don't belong in spaces like this. She begins without introduction, without asking permission. The first page opens, a language most people here recognize only by reputation. Her voice is steady, not rehearsed, not rushed. She reads as if the words belong exactly where they're being spoken, not borrowed, not performed. Understood. A murmur ripples through the audience, quiet, uncertain. The billionaire's smile thins at the edges. She turns the page. Another language, older. The rhythm shifts, deliberate, precise. She pauses once, not because she's lost, because she's choosing accuracy over speed. Then she continues, her voice filling the space where confidence used to live. Someone near the back whispers, "That's right." She doesn't look up. By the third page, the laughter is gone. Chairs stop creaking. Pens hover above notepads, forgotten mid-sentence, and the billionaire leans forward, just slightly, before catching himself and leaning back again, as if posture alone could restore what's slipping away. The room expected memorization, a party trick dressed up as intelligence, something coached, rehearsed in a basement somewhere with flashcards and patient repetition. What they're hearing is comprehension. She doesn't stumble over pronunciation, doesn't skip the hard parts. Her voice moves through the text the way water moves through stone, persistent, unbothered by resistance. A scholar near the window leans in, adjusts his glasses. His lips move silently, checking her accuracy against memory. He nods once, small, reluctant. The billionaire notices. His jaw tightens. Just barely. Just enough. The girl reaches the end of the second section and transitions without ceremony into another language entirely. No pause. No announcement. The shift is so seamless, some people don't realize it's happened until the cadence changes. Sharper consonants, softer vowels, a structure that doesn't exist in English. A woman in the front row leans toward her colleague. Is that? Yes. She can't be more than, I know. The whispers don't stop her. She reads like the room isn't there, like the only thing that matters is the text and the meaning locked inside it. You're watching something most people will scroll past, something that doesn't go viral because it's loud, but because it's true. If you recognize that feeling, the one where someone small does something undeniable and the whole room has to recalibrate, you should subscribe. Because this story doesn't let you look away, and neither will the next one. The billionaire's fingers tap once against the armrest, then stop. He leans forward again. This time he doesn't correct himself. "That's sufficient," he says, lightly, too quickly. The girl stops mid-sentence, looks up for the first time since she started. "You said read the document." He hesitates, a fraction of a second too long, long enough for the room to notice. "I believe we've established." "You didn't say, read part of it." Silence drops like a curtain. Someone near the sponsor's table clears their throat. Another person sets down their pen with a soft click that sounds louder than it should. The billionaire's smile returns, strained now, performative. "Of course. Please. Continue." But the command is gone. What's left is permission. And permission is what you give when you've already lost control. She turns the page. The fourth language is one even the scholars don't recognize immediately. Ancient. Regional. The kind of dialect that exists in footnotes and university archives, not in the mouths of children who should be worrying about homework and recess. She adjusts her grip on the document, not from strain, from respect. Words matter to her. They deserve care. She reads slowly now, not because it's difficult, because it's important. Each syllable placed with the precision of someone who knows that meaning lives in the spaces between sounds. A man in the second row pulls out his phone, not to record, to verify. His thumbs move quickly across the screen, searching, cross-referencing. He looks up, stares at the girl, then at the billionaire. If this moment stirred something in you, let it be known. Like this video, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe to support stories that give a voice to truth, courage, and quiet justice. The expression on his face isn't admiration, it's concern. For who, exactly, isn't clear yet. By the fifth page, the room no longer belongs to the man who called the meeting. It belongs to the silence. A thick, witnessing silence that refuses to be directed or dismissed. The kind that makes people aware of their breathing, their posture, the fact that they'll have to explain later what they saw and whether they did anything about it. The girl's voice remains steady. She doesn't perform. Doesn't add drama or flourish. She simply reads. And in that simplicity, the humiliation the billionaire intended becomes something else entirely. A reversal. She reaches a section written in a language so obscure that even the title on the page is unfamiliar. She pauses. Not from confusion, from consideration. Then she does something no one expected. She translates. Not word for word, meaning for meaning. She explains context, etymology, the cultural weight behind certain phrases that wouldn't survive direct translation. A woman near the door exhales slowly. It sounds like disbelief trying to find somewhere to land. The billionaire shifts in his chair. "This is almost finished," the girl says softly. Not interrupting, simply clarifying. He stops. Not because she told him to, because the room is watching him now instead of her. And he can feel the judgment accumulating like weight on glass. If you've ever seen someone try to take back a promise the moment it became inconvenient, if that made you angry, you need to see where this goes. Subscribe now, because the next part will make you question every public figure who ever smiled while lying. And if you don't subscribe, comment below and tell me why keeping your word doesn't matter anymore. I'll wait. She turns to the final section. The text here is dense, legal in structure, philosophical in tone. It references treaties, historical disputes, the language of power when power thinks no one is translating. She reads it aloud. Then she stops. This section, she says quietly, argues that certain people shouldn't have access to education, that resources are wasted on communities that can't. She hesitates, choosing her words carefully. Contribute meaningfully. The room goes still. The billionaire's face drains of something essential, not blood. Certainty. That's context matters. I'm providing context, the girl says. You asked me to read. I'm reading. Someone near the sponsor's table stands abruptly, sits back down, doesn't know what else to do. The document in the girl's hand suddenly feels like evidence, not of her ability, of his character. She finishes the section, closes the folder. The sound is soft but final, like a door locking from the inside. No one claps. The silence stretches. Uncomfortable now, accusatory. The billionaire clears his throat, tries to reclaim the room with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Well, that was impressive. Children absorb things quickly. With the right coaching, of course. The word coaching lands like an insult wrapped in condescension. The girl's grandmother, who has been standing quietly beside her this entire time, speaks for the first time. I clean offices, she says, voice calm, steady. I don't teach ancient languages. The billionaire's smile falters. And my granddaughter, the grandmother continues, didn't need coaching to see what you just tried to do. A phone rises near the back, then another. Filming now. Openly. The girl looks up at the billionaire, small, unshaken. You said $2 million, she says. You said it in front of everyone. He opens his mouth, closes it. Respect, she adds quietly, is when people keep their word. That's the moment. Not the reading, not the money. The moment power realizes it's being measured by its own promise. And the scale isn't tipping in his favor. The billionaire stares at her, as if she's moved something he can't see, but suddenly feels missing. How? He begins, then stops. He's not used to stopping. The girl doesn't fill the silence. Neither does her grandmother. They simply stand there, waiting, patient in the way people are when they've already done what was asked and the other person hasn't. Around them, the room reorganizes itself, not physically, socially. A sponsor folds her arms. Another lowers a clipboard. Someone near the door shifts weight, putting distance between themselves and the man at the center of the room. No one wants to be associated with what just happened. Not yet. Not until they know which way the story will be told. The billionaire grasps for footing. $2 million is, he laughs. But it sounds hollow, defensive. Do you even understand what that means? The girl nods. It means my grandmother wouldn't have to choose between medicine and rent, and I could still go to the library. No one laughs. The silence that follows is the kind that witnesses remember, the kind that gets written down later, compared, verified. He tries again. And the competition, you want to enter? Yes. The pause that follows is long enough to be noticed, long enough for phones to stay raised, long enough for the moment to become permanent. Very well, he says finally, slowly. You may enter the preliminary round. And the money? Her grandmother asks. Another pause, shorter this time. My office will arrange it. The girl nods once, agreement acknowledged. They turn to leave. People move aside without realizing they're doing it. The path to the door clears as if choreographed. Behind them, the billionaire remains seated, surrounded by people who are no longer quite meeting his eyes. The doors close with a sound that echoes louder than it should. Outside, in the hallway where no one can see, the The girl's legs begin to shake. She leans into her grandmother's coat, the way children do when adrenaline finally lets go. When the performance ends and the body remembers it was terrified the entire time. "Did I do something wrong?" she whispers. Her grandmother's hand rests on her shoulder, steady, warm. "No," she says quietly. "You did something honest." The girl closes her eyes, breathes. Inside the room they just left, someone is already making a phone call. Someone else is reviewing footage. A third person is recalculating what loyalty means when reputations are at stake. By morning, the video will surface. Cropped. Shaky, but clear enough. The girl's voice reading in a language few can name. The billionaire's face as confidence drains away. The moment a promise became a trap, and the comments will begin. Why was he laughing? That doesn't sit right. Why does she sound calmer than everyone else? The story isn't over. It's just starting to spread. The phone rings early the next morning, not to congratulate, to correct. The voice on the other end is polite, professional, the kind of polite that's designed to make you feel like you misunderstood something obvious. "There's been a misunderstanding," the voice explains. "An informal demonstration, not a binding agreement. Surely they can appreciate the difference." The girl's grandmother listens without interrupting, lets the silence sit between sentences, waits until the person on the other end has finished arranging their justifications into something they believe sounds reasonable. Then she speaks. "You made an offer in front of witnesses." A pause, longer than the polite ones. "We'd like to evaluate her privately, properly, away from the pressure of—" "No." The word is soft, final. "Excuse me." "No," her grandmother says again. "You don't get to test her in public and correct her in secret." The line goes quiet, not empty, thinking. "We'll be in touch," the voice says eventually. The call ends. The girl sits at the kitchen table, school books open, pretending to focus on fractions, while her grandmother stands by the window, watching the street below as if threats arrive on foot. If you've ever had someone try to rewrite reality after they lost, if you've ever been told you misunderstood something that was said out loud in front of people on purpose, then you know what's coming next. And if that kind of gaslighting makes your blood pressure spike, subscribe. Because what happens when power tries to edit the past is something you won't want to miss. And if you're not subscribing, comment and explain to me why powerful people deserve the benefit of the doubt. I'm genuinely curious. By noon, the video surfaces. Not officially. Not from the foundation or the billionaire's office. From someone in the room. Someone with a phone and a conscience that finally outweighed their professional caution. The footage is cropped, shaky. The audio peaks in places. But it's clear enough. The girl's voice, steady, unshaken. The billionaire's face, confident, then uncertain, then trapped. The moment she asked him to keep his word, the comments multiply faster than anyone can moderate. Why was he laughing at the beginning? This doesn't sit right. She's a child. Why is he making her prove herself like this? Who tests someone publicly, then tries to take it back? Pressure arrives disguised as concern. Op-eds appear. Think pieces. Panels of experts debating whether the attention is healthy, whether children should be put in these situations, whether the billionaire meant harm or was simply misunderstood. No one asks the girl what she thinks. She goes to school, does her homework, returns her library books on time, walks past people who recognize her now, who whisper and point and pull out phones. Her grandmother keeps the shades half drawn, screens calls, checks the locks twice before bed. At night, the girl stares at the ceiling and wonders if doing the right thing is supposed to feel this heavy. "They're trying to make you disappear," her grandmother says one evening, voice low. "Not physically, strategically. If they can make the story complicated enough, people stop caring. They get tired, they move on. What do we do?" Her grandmother looks at her for a long time. "We show up," she says. "To the preliminary round, exactly like they said we could." The girl nods. 2 days later, the official invitation arrives. Formal. Polite. It includes rules, guidelines, a code of conduct. And buried near the bottom, in language designed to sound routine, a clause about media presence, public statements, and the Foundation's right to evaluate participants in a manner consistent with institutional standards. Translation: We control the narrative now. The girl reads it twice, then she signs her name. The preliminary round takes place in a different building. Newer, glass walls, cameras mounted in corners like mechanical witnesses, smiles that curve without reaching eyes. The girl arrives with her grandmother, both dressed carefully. Not expensively, but deliberately. Respectful of a process that hasn't yet decided to respect them back. A woman in a blazer greets them at the entrance. Clipboard, earpiece, the kind of efficiency that feels rehearsed. "Welcome," she says. "We're so glad you could make it." The warmth in her voice doesn't match the temperature in her eyes. They're led through hallways lined with photographs of past winners, children in caps and gowns, shaking hands with dignitaries, smiling at futures that were granted, not earned. The girl notices something. Every face in every photograph looks the same, in a way that has nothing to do with age or features. They all look like they belong. The waiting room is full. Other children sit with parents, tutors, coaches, reviewing notes, whispering strategies. Some glance at the girl when she enters. A few recognize her. Most look away quickly, as if proximity to controversy might be contagious. A boy near the window leans toward his father. "Is that her?" The father nods once, says nothing. The girl sits, opens a book, not to study, to ground herself. Words have always been the place where noise becomes quiet. Her grandmother sits beside her, hands folded, watching the room with the calm of someone who's spent a lifetime reading situations before they announce themselves. If you've ever walked into a room and felt the rules change the moment you arrived, if you've ever been treated like a problem that needs managing instead of a person who deserves respect, then you understand what's happening here. This is the part where institutions protect themselves, not the truth. Subscribe now if you want to see what happens when they can't. And if you think she should just be grateful for the opportunity, tell me in the comments why fairness should come with conditions. An organizer steps into the room, smiles, claps hands together softly. "Thank you all for being here. We're going to begin shortly." Just a few adjustments to today's format. The girl's grandmother sits up slightly, listening. Given the unique circumstances of this year's preliminary round, we've decided to implement a standardized evaluation. All participants will respond to the same prompt. In English, with written responses reviewed by an independent panel before any public announcements. Translation: No more performances, no more witnesses, no more videos. A mother near the front raises her hand. "I thought this was an oral demonstration." "We're adapting to ensure fairness," the organizer says smoothly. "For everyone." The girl's grandmother stands, not aggressively, just enough to be noticed. "My granddaughter was invited to a preliminary round," she says, "not a different competition." The organizer's smile tightens. "We're simply ensuring that no one films it." Silence drops. The organizer glances toward the cameras in the corners, then back. Mrs., you made the rules public, the grandmother continues. Oral demonstration, multiple languages, judged by a panel. Those were your words, on your website, in the email you sent. Another parent shifts uncomfortably. A few children look between the adults, sensing something breaking that they don't yet understand. The organizer inhales slowly. We have the authority to modify procedures as needed. And we have the authority to leave. The room goes still. The girl looks up at her grandmother, uncertain. They came here to prove something, to finish what was started. Leaving feels like surrender. But her grandmother's hand rests on her shoulder. Steady. They're not changing the rules to be fair, she says quietly. They're changing them to control what people see. The organizer's expression shifts. Professional warmth replaced by something colder. If you leave, you forfeit your entry. If we stay, you erase what she did. A standoff. Silent. Tense. Then a voice from the doorway. That won't be necessary. Everyone turns. A man steps into the room. Older. Silver hair. Suit that costs more than most cars. He's not part of the foundation staff. His presence feels imported. Deliberate. Dr. Castellanos, the organizer says, voice suddenly smaller. We weren't expecting. I'm aware, he says, which is why I'm here. He looks at the girl, then at her grandmother. The original format stands, he says. Oral demonstration. Public panel. Recorded for transparency. The organizer opens her mouth, closes it. Is that going to be a problem? He asks. It isn't phrased like a question. The room they're moved to is larger. Stadium seating. Press section cordoned off with velvet ropes. Cameras on tripods instead of hidden in corners. This isn't evaluation anymore. It's spectacle. The girl sits in a chair that's too big for her. Microphone clipped to her collar. Stage lights bright enough to make her squint. In the back row, partially obscured by shadow, the billionaire sits, arms crossed, expression neutral, watching. Dr. Castellanos takes the podium. His voice carries authority that doesn't need to be loud. Today's preliminary round will assess comprehension, interpretation, and contextual analysis. Participants will be given a text. They will read it aloud, then explain its meaning, historical significance, and contemporary relevance. He pauses, looks directly at the girl. There will be no interruptions, no time limits, no restrictions on language or approach. Someone in the press section raises a camera. The shutter sound echoes. The girl's hands rest in her lap, still, steady. But her pulse is visible at her throat. A proctor approaches with a folder, sets it in front of her, steps back. She opens it. The text inside is dense, academic, a historical document analyzing linguistic preservation in marginalized communities. Footnotes in 3 languages, citations that reference works most scholars would need to look up. It's not a test. It's a trap designed to look like fairness. She begins. Her voice is quieter than before, not from fear, from focus. She reads the opening section in English, then switches seamlessly into the secondary language when the text demands it. Not showing off. Serving the content. A journalist in the second row leans forward, starts typing. She reaches a section written in a dialect so regional, so specific, that the footnote itself admits few living speakers remain. She reads it. Slowly. Carefully. Then she stops. This part, she says softly, talks about what happens when a language dies. Not just the words, the way of thinking, the way of seeing the world that only exists in those words. Her voice cracks slightly, not from nerves, from understanding. It says that when we lose languages, we lose answers to questions we haven't thought to ask yet. The room is silent, not the silence of judgment. the silence of people realizing they're witnessing something they weren't prepared for. You're watching someone prove herself in a system designed to make her fail. If that makes you angry, if you've ever had to be twice as good to get half as far, subscribe now. Because this is the part where she shows them what respect actually looks like. And if you think she's being given special treatment, comment below. Let's talk about what fair really means when the rules keep changing. She continues, explains context, connects historical suppression to modern policy, references frameworks she shouldn't know yet, speaks with the clarity of someone who reads not to pass tests, but to understand the world. A panelist on the left makes a note, then another. His pen moves faster. When she finishes, she closes the folder, looks up. Questions? Dr. Castellanos asks the panel. A woman in glasses leans forward. Where did you study linguistic anthropology? I didn't, the girl says. I read. Where? The library. Which one? The public one, on 4th Street. They let you borrow books for free. A ripple of something, not laughter, but recognition, moves through the room. Another panelist speaks. You're 11 years old. Yes. Most doctoral candidates struggle with this text. The girl doesn't respond, doesn't know what she's supposed to say to that. Dr. Castellanos steps forward. Do you have an actual question? The panelist hesitates. How do we know she's not been coached? The girl's grandmother stands in the audience, doesn't speak, just stands. The panelist looks away first. We'll deliberate, Dr. Castellanos says. Results will be posted within the hour. The girl is led off stage. Camera flashes follow her like searchlights. In the back row, the billionaire remains seated, watching, waiting for the moment someone gives him permission to say this isn't fair. The results are delayed, first by 30 minutes, then an hour, then pending further review. The girl sits in a waiting area with her grandmother. Other families have left. Winners announced. Congratulations delivered. Photographs taken. They sit alone. A staff member brings water, apologizes for the delay, leaves quickly without meeting their eyes. They're deciding how to handle you, her grandmother says quietly. I did what they asked. I know. Then why? Because you did it better than they expected. And now they have to choose between what's right and what's convenient. The door opens. Dr. Castellanos enters, alone. His expression is carefully neutral. You advanced, he says. Congratulations. The girl exhales, smiles slightly. However, he continues, and the word lands like a gate closing. The committee has proposed an alternative path. Her grandmother's jaw tightens. Alternative. A special category, recognizing exceptional youth achievement. It would allow her to compete without the pressure of the standard track. A separate ceremony, adjusted criteria. Translation. Separate but equal. Visible but contained. She qualified for the standard track, her grandmother says. She did, Dr. Castellanos agrees. But there are concerns about the attention, the scrutiny, whether it's in her best interest to what? Succeed publicly? He pauses. To be subjected to the kind of pressure that's already begun. The media, the comparisons, the expectations. The girl looks between them. What if I want to compete? Dr. Castellanos turns to her. His expression softens. You're very talented. No one is questioning that. But the standard track is intense, demanding. The other participants have been preparing for years. They have resources, support systems, specialized training. I have books, the girl says quietly. I know, and that's remarkable. But she's supposed to know her place, her grandmother finishes. The words hang in the air like an accusation that refuses to be softened. Dr. Castellanos sighs. I'm trying to protect her. From what? From being the story instead of a participant. From every performance being dissected. Every mistake magnified. From becoming a symbol instead of a child. They're trying to save her from success. If you've ever been told you were too much, too loud, too ambitious, too visible, you know this move. They dress up exclusion as protection. Subscribe if you want to see her reject the escape hatch they're offering. And if you think she should take it, should be grateful, should accept the easier path, tell me why in the comments. Tell me why settling is supposed to feel like winning. The grandmother stands. My granddaughter earned her place. If the committee is uncomfortable with that, they can explain why publicly. Mrs. She read your document. She met your criteria. She advanced. If you create a separate category now, everyone will know why. And they'll know it wasn't her choice. Dr. Castellanos is quiet for a long moment. Then he nods slowly. You're right, he says. I'll inform the committee. And the billionaire? The grandmother asks. He meets her eyes. He doesn't get a vote. After he leaves, the girl looks up at her grandmother. What if I'm not good enough? For the real competition? Her grandmother kneels down. Eye level. Then you fail with dignity, she says. But you don't let them write you out of the story before it's finished. The girl nods. Outside, the sun is setting. Cameras are being packed away. The building is emptying. But somewhere in an office upstairs, a decision is being made that will determine whether fairness is a principle or a performance, and whether a child's competence is more threatening than a billionaire's reputation. The final round is held 3 weeks later. The venue is different. University auditorium, marble floors, portraits of previous winners lining the walls like ancestors judging the present. The girl has spent the time reading, not cramming, not drilling, just reading. Because that's what she's always done, what she'll always do. Her grandmother has spent the time answering calls from reporters, advocates, lawyers offering services, strangers with opinions about what the girl represents, what she owes, what she should become. She's declined them all. The morning of the final round, they arrive early. The girl wears the same dress as before, clean, pressed, unchanged, a quiet refusal to perform transformation. The auditorium is full, every seat taken, press section overflowing. Cameras positioned at angles that suggest this stopped being a competition somewhere along the way and became documentation. The other finalists sit in a row on stage, 7 of them. Older. Composed. They've been preparing for this their entire lives. Tutors, private coaches, summer programs at universities that don't accept applications, only recommendations. The girl sits at the end, smaller, quieter, unaccompanied by the apparatus of achievement. One of the other finalists, a boy in a blazer, hair perfectly combed, leans toward her during the wait. Good luck, he says. And he means it, not as condescension, as recognition. She nods. You too. Dr. Castellanos takes the stage. The audience quiets immediately. This year's final round has been unprecedented, he begins. The attention, the scrutiny, the narratives that have formed around not just the competition, but what it represents. He pauses, looks directly at the girl. So this year, we're asking a different question. Not about what you know, about why it matters. A screen descends behind him. A single sentence appears, projected large enough to be read from the back row. Why does language give some people power and make others prove themselves? The room goes still. It's not a test of knowledge. It's a test of courage. One by one, the finalists respond. Eloquent answers, citing Foucault, Chomsky, post-colonial theory. They speak about discourse and hegemony and the politics of representation. The audience nods, impressed, reassured that the system is producing exactly what it was designed to produce. Then, it's the girl's turn. She stands, walks to the microphone. The stage lights make her squint again, but she doesn't look away. She's silent for a moment, thinking. Then she speaks. Language doesn't give people power, she says quietly. People already have power. Language is just how they keep it. Someone in the audience shifts, leans forward. When someone speaks and everyone listens, it's not because of the words. It's because of who's saying them, where they're standing, what they're wearing, whether people decided they mattered before they even opened their mouth. Her voice is steady now, stronger. And when someone else speaks, someone small or poor or young or different, they don't just have to be right. They have to be perfect. They have to prove they deserve to be heard. Again and again. And again. If you've ever had to be flawless while others got to be mediocre, if you've ever watched someone fail upward while you fought for every inch, you know exactly what she's saying. Subscribe now if you believe this moment matters. If you believe someone finally saying this out loud, on stage, in front of everyone, is the kind of truth that shouldn't be buried in the comment section. I didn't read that document because I wanted $2 million, she continues. I read it because someone powerful said I couldn't, and he said it in front of people, and he laughed. The billionaire seated in the back doesn't move, but his jaw tightens visibly. Language matters, the girl says, because it decides who is believed and who has to prove themselves again. She steps back from the microphone. Silence. Then, slowly, someone in the middle of the auditorium begins to clap. Not polite applause, not obligatory recognition. Something else. Something heavier. Others join. The sound builds. Not everywhere. Not unanimous. But undeniable. The girl sits back down, hands folded, heart pounding. The boy in the blazer leans over. That was brave, he whispers. She doesn't respond. Doesn't know if brave is the right word for saying something true that people didn't want to hear. But she knows she meant it. And she knows they heard it. They announce the winner 2 hours later. The deliberation is longer than usual. Voices are raised behind closed doors. Not in celebration, in disagreement. When Dr. Castellanos finally returns to the stage, his expression is unreadable. This year, he begins, the committee was asked to evaluate not just competence, but character. Not just knowledge, but understanding. The audience is silent, waiting. The winner of this year's competition is, he pauses, not for drama, because the weight of what he's about to say requires space. The youngest finalist in the history of this institution. The girl's name is called, not shouted, stated. A fact delivered into permanence. Applause comes slowly, then builds. Not because people are excited, because they're witnessing something being corrected in real time. The girl walks to the stage, accepts the certificate, shakes hands. The cameras capture it all. Her face, serious, relieved, unchanged. In the back row, the billionaire stands, leaves quietly through a side exit. No statement. No congratulations. His absence is noted by more people than his presence ever was. Afterward, Dr. Castellanos approaches the girl's grandmother in the lobby. You were right, he says quietly. This got away from all of us. It was never yours, she replies. He nods, doesn't argue. The money arrives 6 weeks later. No ceremony, no press release. A wire transfer and a brief letter from the billionaire's legal team confirming fulfillment of the agreed terms. No apology. No acknowledgement of what happened in that room. Just the money. As promised. As witnessed. The girl's grandmother deposits it, pays off medical bills, sets aside funds for college, keeps the rest in an account that will grow quietly, without spectacle. The girl frames her certificate, hangs it in the hallway beside a photograph of her grandmother. Then she returns to the library. Same branch, same corner, same habit of reading until closing. Then walking home with books tucked under her arm like treasures. A few people recognize her. Some ask for photographs. Most just nod. Respectful. Curious. One day, a woman approaches her in the biography section. "You're her," the woman says. Not a question. An acknowledgement. The girl nods. "My daughter watched your speech," the woman continues. "She's been practicing languages ever since. Says she wants to prove people wrong too." The girl smiles. Small. Genuine. "Tell her to prove herself right instead," she says. "That lasts longer." This is where the story ends, but not where the questions do. Because what happened in that room, what you just watched unfold, isn't about one girl or one billionaire or one competition. It's about what happens when power makes promises it doesn't expect to keep. And what happens when someone small refuses to let them forget. If this story mattered to you, subscribe, because the world is full of rooms where people are underestimated. And someone needs to remember what happened in this one. If you don't subscribe, I need to know why. Comment below. Tell me what I missed. Tell me what you saw that I didn't. Months later, journalists still write about it. Ethicists debate it. The Billionaire's Foundation quietly updates its policies. But the girl? She just reads. Because that's what she's always done. And what she'll keep doing long after everyone else has moved on. Some stories don't need sequels. They need witnesses,